Okay, Rams, now we are going to start our video for multiplying fractions. Yay! So our standard here actually is a very broad one. It's multiply and divide positive rational numbers fluently. Well, what this is going to mean is positive whole numbers or I guess not negative integers, just positive or fractions or decimals, okay? So a couple of rules here. Rule 1 for multiplying fractions is no whole numbers. Okay? No whole numbers. Now, what does that mean? If I have a fraction or I have a whole number, what do I do with it? Well, you put it over 1. So 7 is the same thing as 7 over 1 because that's a division problem, right? 7 divided by 1 is 7. So if you have a whole number and you're trying to multiply it, just make it a fraction, put it over 1, and it works, okay? Rule number 2. I am so sorry. Rule number 2 is no mixed numbers. Now, what do we do? Make it improper. No mixed numbers. So if I had like 2 and 1/3, I would use called the Mad Math or the Texas method or popcorn method. We are going to make it an improper fraction. So 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 1 is 7/3. Now I could multiply that, okay? Now my next rule is multiply straight across. Once you make sure there are no whole numbers and no mixed numbers, you multiply straight across. Okay, I'll tell you some bad words in class are butterfly method. Okay, we don't know in elementary, some teachers teach that, but they don't actually teach you what it means and what it is that we're doing and why, and we do not do that. That is not part of multiplying fractions. So you go straight across. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So let's say I'm going to do like 1/4 times 2/3. So on that problem right here, I'm going to go 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 3 is 12. And don't forget to simplify. So I could simplify that fraction right there. I'm going to divide them both by 2. I'm going to get 1/6, and that is your answer. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. It's that simple. Over here, how do you write 5 as an improper fraction? Just like that one, right? We put it over 1. So 5 is the same thing as 5 over 1. All right, next. Dun, da, da, da. All right, we're going to practice these rules. Okay, I have no whole numbers and no mixed numbers. So what am I going to do? I'm going to multiply straight across. 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 5 is 15. Guess what? That's my answer. It is in simplest form. There is nothing else I need to do. Okay, this one, though, is a whole number. So I need to make it 6 over 1 times 2 over 3. 6 times 2 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3. What is 12 divided by 3? 4. That is an improper fraction right here. So we need to divide it and we get 4. There is no remainder. So 6 times 2/3 is 4. Or you could say 2/3 of 6 is 4. And we'll get to that in a second, okay? Uh-oh, both of these are mixed numbers. What do? Make them improper. So 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21, and my denominator stays the same. Okay, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2. Now, I'm going to show you a really cool trick here, okay? And I don't want it to be something that confuses you, but I want it to be a useful tool. You ready? If I have the same number on top and on bottom, I can cancel them out. Boom, boom. So what do I have left? Right? Because that's like saying 5 over 5 is 1. There's a 5 on top and a 5 on bottom, so they cancel each other out. So what I'm left with is, actually I kind of divide them both by 5, right? 21 times 1 is 21. 1 times 2 is 2. That's improper. So 21 divided by 2. 2 times 1 is 2, and I subtract, and I get a 0, and I bring down this 1. Sorry, not a 0. 2 goes into 1 0 times. So 2 times 0 is 0, and I subtract and get a 1. That 1 is my remainder. I'm going to bring it right up here and put it beside my whole number. That's my numerator. My denominator stays the same. It's a 2. 10.5. Okay, that is just the rules for multiplying. We're going to play with those in class tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to jump right over here to a question. What does it mean to find a fraction of a number? Man, you're going to hear me say this like a bazillion times this year. Fraction of a number means multiply. Okay, and we could say like 2/3 of 500. That means multiply. Half of 76. That means multiply. It's a fraction of a number. Okay? All right, right over here. Juan has 60 books in his collection. 1/5 of those are mysteries. How many are mysteries? Now, when you see fraction, when you hear the word of, you know that's multiply, but it's not any of. It's not like a slice of pizza. It's a fraction of another number. Now, I don't see another number here, right? I see a fraction of the books. But is there a number that represents the books? Yeah, it's that 60 right there. That 60 represents the books. So what I want to know is 1/5 of 60. That means multiply. Well, I have a whole number, so what do? I just put it over 1. So what I have right now is 1/5 times 60 over 1. There we go, 1/5 of 60. 1 times 60 is 60. And then 5 times 1 is 5. What is 60 divided by 5? 12. That should be one that is memorized. So this means that 12 of the books are mysteries. All right, so another way of looking at this, though, it says 2/5 of the books. 2/5 of, back to Juan's books. And what number does that represent? 60. 2/5 of those same 60 books are graphic novels. How many graphic novels? Now, one thing, there are a couple of ways, okay? I'm going to draw a picture here, okay? I'm going to divide it into 5 equal-ish parts. So, 60 books is my total number of books, right? And this is 5/5, right? There are 5 parts here. Well, if 1/5 equals 12 books, what would 2/5 be? 24. And 3/5 will be 36. And 4/5 will be 48. And then 60. Okay, you could do that. You could go through and break it down. If you know 1/5, you could double it and get what 2/5 equals, right? Or you could say 2/5 of, so that's times 60 over 1. So that's 120 divided by 5, which will give me 24. Okay, there are a couple of ways of looking at that. But if you can figure out what 1/5 is, then you can get to 2/5. This one here, what is the difference in finding 1/5 of a number and finding 2/5 of a number? Well, 2/5 is double, right? Is double, and double means twice as much the amount as 1/5. It's double the amount. All right, we're working our way right through this, okay? Susie's making cookies. Yum. I like cookies. The recipe calls for 2.5 cups of flour. She wants to make 3 batches, so sometimes a picture helps. Here's a batch, here's a batch, and here's a batch of cookies. A batch is like 1 recipe full, okay? So this is 2.5 cups of flour for 1 set of cookies, 1 batch of cookies. 2.5 cups. And 2.5 cups. Another way to know that a problem is multiplication is if you can use repeated addition. I'm going to write that down. I want you to write it, okay? Repeated addition equals multiply. Okay? So if I could add 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5 3 times, that's the same thing as doing 2.5 times 3. Okay? 2.5 times 3. Now, I need to make them improper, right? So 2 times 2 is 4. plus 1 is 5 halves times 3 over 1. Okay, 5 times 3 is 15. 2 times 1 is 2. 15 halves, you're going to run out of room, but you'll need to divide, is the same thing as 7½ cups. 15 divided by 2 is going to give you 7½ okay? Oh, our bell's about to ring here. Just ignore it, okay? Lindsay is counting the students in the cafeteria. There are 240 students. 3/4 of them are wearing RMS shirts. So how many students are wearing RMS shirts? So really, it's 3/4 of what these students, what students are there? These 240. Okay? It doesn't always say 3/4 of 240. It's going to say 3/4 of these. And you have to figure out what number represents these. So 3/4, oh goodness, of 240. Now, there are a couple of ways to do this. You could say 3/4 times 240 over 1. Or I could say, well, what is 1/4 of 240? Okay, do my picture here again. 240. Sorry, y'all. So what's half of 240? 120. What's half of that? 60. And what's halfway? If each one is 60, 60, 120, 180. So 3/4 is 3/4 of the way. 1/4 is 60, 2/4 is 120, 3/4 is 180. 180 is your answer. Another way of looking at that is to say, you know, if I want to know 1/4 of something, I can divide by 4. If I divided 240 divided by 4, I would get 60. And then I could multiply by 3, okay? Okay, you're going to write your summary. Surely there's new stuff you've learned because all this part of the multiplying is new to 6th grade. So what part of these might be new to you? Is that new? Are any of these rules new? How about knowing when it's multiplication? Is that new? Okay, I want you to fill out your summary because you're going to type it in to the response next, okay? Thanks, Rams.